Hello, YouTube. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney, and on this channel, we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answers they need from an employment attorney. Sorry about my voice. I have a cough. I am congested. We have a question here from YouTube user Country Boy who asked us, question, is it better to ask for a multi-million-dollar payment, for example, 25 million, or a lifetime payment if your client suffered a severe and permanent mental health problem? So, Country Boy, the easy answer is in this field, generally, defendants find a one time payment to be much more palatable. Long term payments are generally very difficult to get traction for during settlement negotiations. I can think of maybe two in the entirety of my career that went that path, but generally speaking, for most employers, the one time payment is preferable for most defendant employers. Now, just as a quick note here, you seem to be making the argument that someone, whether it's you or someone else you're working with, might have been damaged in a way that means they will never work again. Keep in mind, that is always a tough claim to prove. It can be done. Certainly it can be done. We've all worked on cases where it has been done, but it is rare, and I will say that a vast swath of plaintiffs try to make that argument, and often that argument actually undercuts the value of their case, right? Because one thing they're doing is they're saying, I'll never work again, I can never work again. So they're not keeping a mitigation journal. They're not engaging in efforts to mitigate, right? You have to have this affirmative duty in our field to mitigate your economic damage. You have to seek comparable employment. And as part of that, you have to apply to jobs that are comparable. And we have videos on what is and is not comparable. We have videos on how to keep a mitigation journal with all this stuff. So I'm not going to get into this here. But people who say, I'll never be able to work again, often don't keep their mitigation journal. So if the idea that they'll never be able to work again does not gain traction in litigation, often their economic damages are, for lack of a better term, a bit neutered by their failure to keep the mitigation journal, right? And this is the classic thing. We have certainly every law firm has clients in this field where the client just will not mitigate, will not keep a mitigation journal, will not apply. It's like, no, what if I get a job? Then my damages will stop growing. It's like, but if you don't keep this journal, your damages won't grow anyway. So might as well apply, right? So that's one thing to watch out for there. And just like, you're going to need some specificity. You're going to need some treatment records to really prove that someone has been permanently harmed in a way that they will never bounce back from and they'll never be able to work again. And you didn't say that specifically. I'm extrapolating from what you said here. Like, I'll give you an example. If I go into work tomorrow and somebody throws a stapler at my head and they're like, you honky piece of shit, and then they run away. Is that technically a discrimination claim against my caucasity, my desperate whiteness? Yeah, of course. They reference specifically a racial slur based on race. And they threw a stapler at my head. Ow, right? Is that a claim? Sure is. Now let's say I say, listen, that terrified me. I'll never work again. And Country Boy, this is not what I'm saying you're doing. I have no idea about your specific case. But let's say that's the stance that I take, which would not be unheard of. Like I've seen other plaintiffs take that stance on similar fact patterns, right? And I go into court and I say, well, I didn't keep a mitigation journal because I'll never work again because I was traumatized by that stapler. Odds are most judges, most juries, most arbitrators will hear me out and say, yeah, I don't believe you. And in fact, I think you claiming this hurts your credibility in other matters as well because it's a ridiculous claim and I don't think it makes any sense. So that argument you're making has harmed you in multiple ways because now I don't believe you about other things. And also your economic damages didn't grow because you didn't keep your mitigation journal. And your case has now been significantly harmed, impaired by your overreach here on your situation, which was bad. Listen, nobody likes a racial slur. Nobody likes a stapler to the face. I feel like that's the human condition. Like, generally speaking, odds are most humans would be like, I don't like being hit with staplers and racial slurs. But so too is it generally the human condition that most people, when sitting as a juror or judge or an arbitrator hearing that case, would say, yeah, that sounds unpleasant. That's a claim. But you're going to work again. Right? And also, let's get into it. Like, listen, you can say you're never going to work again. But last night you went down to Chili's, got yourself a couple $1 margaritas. And 3 in, you knew 2 things. 1, you were going to have a hangover. 2, you wanted to post to social media because you're having a good time. You're smiling big. Yeah, they're going to get those pictures. Other side's going to get those pictures, and they're going to say, I don't know, Vince, you're never going to work again? Because you seem pretty happy here. Right? Listen, there's lots of stuff. There's lots of ways to trip people up. Well, you hiked the Appalachian Trail. That's a difficult and challenging thing. You're saying you're never going to work again, but you can hike the Appalachian Trail? Okay. You joined Doctors Without Borders. You're never going to work again? Do you know how stressful Doctors Without Borders is? Do you know how stressful? You say you can't go back into the workplace, but you can do Doctors Without Borders? Tell me more about that one. Oh, you work for your volunteer fire department? So you run into burning buildings, but you're so emotionally scarred that you can't go in the workplace anymore? Yeah. Side note, is that possible? Could that be a medical condition that you're so traumatized by what happened at work that although you can run into a burning building, you can't run back into the office? Yeah. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but it sounds like that could be something that could happen. Is that something I could sell to a jury? Well, that's a different story. That's a tough pitch. Yeah, burning buildings, I'm good for that, but not TPS reports. Somebody might throw a stapler at my face, right? Like, probably not. Probably going to work again, right? So I'm just dropping a note here, country boy. I'm sure you may have the $25 million case. I have no idea, right? But most people who think they're never going to work again, I would say like 80, 90% of the people who come in the office being like, I'll never work again. Oh, they work again. And often that stance harms the valuation of their case and adds risk to the litigation. So just be aware of that. I know you are a pretty well-reasoned person, and I suspect that you're on top of this. And you're just throwing out numbers, and this is a hypothetical and all that. But I did think it was worth noting, because the hypothetical, not you, the hypothetical you provided sounded a little bit like somebody deep in the throes of like a case of the greedies, where they harm themselves in their case because they want that big number that they're maybe never going to get. So I thought it was valuable for other people, again, not you, to hear this discussion. Anyways, if this was helpful, like, subscribe, comment down below. It helps me to help more people just like you. Share our videos. It's how our channel grows. Take care, everyone.